cut the TV off.
Or cut it down. What's that high-pitched noise?
It's the VCR.
It's the VCR.
Oh. Good evening, Martinsville, Virginia. My name is Chris Windham, and this here is Sebastian Kane. We're here on the AIWF Power Zone, your direct link to our house shows and matches in the AIWF. Take it away, Sebastian.
Well, I just don't much like being here, honestly. But, you know, since I am here, I guess I might as well tell you that we got some shows coming up. So, tonight in Pofftown, North Carolina, which is close to Keene for you rednecks that don't understand.
That'd be nice.
I am. Tonight we got a title versus title match with Robert Roma with the U.S. title versus the Black Knight with the heavyweight title, which, in my opinion, neither one of those guys are going to win because they're too busy kissing fans' butts.
Well, that match with Robert Roma and the Black Knight, I know both of these men. I've had conversations with them in the dressing room, and I mean, if any one of these men lose, it's going to be a sad day for me because both these men hold titles, and that would mean that one of these men is going to lose a title, and I wish the best of luck to both men.
Yeah, I don't think we'll. I hope both of them lose.
You hope both of them lose. Well, that's just fine.
Now let's go to a commercial. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to AIWF Power Zone. My name is Sebastian Kane. I am filling in for your regular host, Chris Tinfoil Reynolds, who's somewhere having a cookout with somebody, he says, but I don't know. And my co-host is, you know, Chris Windham. But, you know, before we get started too in depth, let's talk about some shows we've got coming up. And tonight in Pofftown, North Carolina, which is close to Keene, Winston-Salem area, we're going to have a title versus title match with Robert Roma and the U.S. title versus the Black Knight with the heavyweight title. So, Chris Windham, how do you see things?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Sebastian. This match, it's a real interesting match because both titles, if I understand correctly, are on the line. Now that means if either one of these men lose, they're going to lose their title as well.
But you also know that one man cannot hold two titles in the AIWF. So if he wins both of them, he's got to somehow, I mean, I don't know what the process is, but he'll have to drop one of his titles.
Well, that's true too. That's also makes this match very interesting because if the Black Knight wins, that means he's going to have to. Well, if either man wins, he's going to have to choose between the heavyweight and the U.S. belt, both which are very prestigious in the AIWF.
Yeah. Let me tell you about another show we've got coming up in Mount Airy, North Carolina, at the Old Jones School Gym, June the 24th. Which, right now, I don't think there's that many matches already booked for the card, but you can count on it, folks. There's going to be some great action that night.
Always is on an AIWF show.
I tell you what, let's go to a quick commercial, then we'll come back with our first match. And welcome back to the Power Zone, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to go to our first match, which was with Major Havoc versus the Intimidator. And this is Major Havoc's first singles match with his new manager, Tex Wheeler. This man got more money than he knows what to do with.
Speaking of Tex, he was involved, I should say, in the match I had. It was shown last week on the Power Zone. Jammer and I took on Jumpin' Jimmy and Major Havoc. And Tex Wheeler was a very intricate part of that match. He was in my corner almost constantly, on my back. I don't think.
Well, see, the way I look at it, Tex Wheeler was just trying to make sure his money was working for him. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that may be true, but money should not be a major, what's the word?
I don't know if you can't think of it. I know I'm not going to strain my brain to it, but money's the root of all evil. And if you notice, Jumpin' Jimmy and Major Havoc are almost as evil as the Tennessee Violence Authority.
Back to Tex Wheeler.
Tex Wheeler's a money-making son of a gun, I'm telling you.
That may be so.
Money-making son of a gun.
Major Havoc and the Intimidator. This match, well,
potential.
Oh yes, it does. Major Havoc's at a clear disadvantage, being almost outweighed.
But Major Havoc is so strong.
But the Intimidator is large. He is a very large man, and well, that's about all. He's a very large man, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll tell you, I'll put my money on Havoc. $20. I'll bet you $20 Major Havoc will win this match.
I don't gamble. I'm not a gambling man.
Well, I tell you, since you're not gambling, let's go to the match. Now that was a heck of a match, my friends.
Yes, if I'd bet you I would have been $20 richer, but as I say, I'm not a gambling man.
Well, you see, once again, Tex Wheeler was just making sure his money was working for him. You know, he put Jumpin' Jimmy outside, snuck him around. Boom, there he was, right up there.
It backfired on him. Referee Don Hopkins, being the sharp man that he is, caught on to what was going on and stopped it dead in its tracks.
The only thing sharp about Don Hopkins is his whiskers on his chin.
Stopping what was going on. Major Havoc and Jumpin' Jimmy and Tex Wheeler were cheating. That is not to be stood for in the AIWF. He threw Jumpin' Jimmy, he threw Major Havoc, he threw Tex Wheeler out of the match, back to the dressing room, game over. That's it. The Intimidator won by disqualification.
Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, the Intimidator beat Major Havoc by disqualification with Jumpin' Jimmy's interference. So, we'll take a commercial. We'll come back with our second match of the evening. Welcome back to the AIWF Power Zone. I am your host, Sebastian Kane, filling in for Chris Tinfoil Reynolds. And this is Chris Windham, lightweight champion of the AIWF. Not to be mistaken with some people calling him the light heavyweight champion. He's just lightweight. But now, let's get on with our second match here. And we're going to have Dixie Dynamite, the AIWF Tag Team Champions, versus Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig, which pray tales to be one of the best matches that's ever been. What do you think?
Well, Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig can be some very formidable opponents, both as a tag team and as a singles opponent, because I have wrestled both Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig in singles matches, well, and in tag matches, but I've wrestled both Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig for the lightweight title. And I have to say, they are some of the more intimidating opponents in the AIWF, as some of the tougher opponents in the AIWF. So this promises to be a very interesting match.
It could pray tell to be a very interesting match. And with Rick Diesel in there, from Los Angeles, California, and Brian Danzig from the dark side, God only knows where this place is. You got two of the crudest, corrupted individuals in the squared circle. So I tell you what, let's do, Chris Windham. Let's watch the match.
To be joined in progress.
Now that was a killer match, man.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The superior officiating in the AIWF. We not only have one referee that knows what he's doing, we have two referees, one to watch the other one's back. I mean, that was just extraordinary officiating on the part of the referees. And I'd just like to give them a hand right here.
Well, the way I look at it is this. Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig pinned Dixie Dynamite's shoulders to the mat. 1, 2, and 3. The belts were put in their hands. And as one guy told me after the match was over, that Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig were champions for 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And then this Don Hopkins go and give the belts back to Dixie Dynamite, well, that's all right. 'Cause I got plans for you.
Well, I mean, let me just say one thing. I mean, if Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig had really earned the belts, they wouldn't have had them taken away from them. I mean, Pete Powers interfered in the match.
No, see what it was, Pete Powers seen something on one Dixie Dynamite or something. He was trying to rub it off is all he was doing, see. And this Skip Peterson or Peter's son or whoever he may be seen it and told Hopkins, and then Hopkins is like, well, no, you can't touch this, so we got to give these back to these guys. Now, what do you say about all that?
You don't know what you're talking about, Sebastian. I mean, Pete Powers interfered in the match. I mean, there's just no question about it.
Pete Powers was just trying to clean Dixie Dynamite up so they could, you know, touch Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig. Because, see, Pete Powers is a huge bodyguard, ex-fan favorite, if you will. Now, he's on Rick Diesel's side. He's got his back. And as big as that man is, that I ain't having to wrestle him no more.
Well, I mean, if Pete Powers hadn't interfered in the match and they had won the belts fair and square, they would have been champions for probably longer than 2 minutes and 8 seconds. That's all I got to say.
Well, I see these four men meeting again somewhere in the near future. But right now, let's go to commercial. Now, welcome back to the AIWF ringside. I am Sebastian King. This is Chris Windham. Now, let's get on to a little more serious note here. My friend Rick Diesel. Windham, you know the story.
Heard it. Versions of it.
Tiny butt there. And welcome back to the AIWF Power Zone. I am Sebastian King. This is Chris Windham. Now, you've seen some stuff here tonight, but right now, we're going to get on a serious note. A friend of mine, Rick Diesel, had an encounter. You know the story, Windham.
I've heard versions of it.
But he was in Charlotte not too long ago. He was buying himself some packages, getting him some new outfits to wear, so the women would flock to him, you know, as only Rick Diesel can do. But lo and behold, he walks out of the store. And out of the store in front of him walks up Chief Wahoo McDaniel.
What a man.
And bumps into Rick Diesel. Knocks Rick Diesel's stuff, brand new stuff, all over the ground. And then Wahoo McDaniel has the audacity to keep walking and not help Mr. Diesel pick up his stuff. This is not kosher. Wendell, what do you have to say?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you what I think happened. I think Mr. Rick Diesel was coming out of the store, was not watching where he was going, probably had his nose stuck up in the air where it usually is, and just being the kind of man that he is, runs right over anybody in his way. He probably ran into Wahoo McDaniel, which he probably just wasn't paying attention, you know, and probably thought that Mr. Diesel would stop, but no, he probably ran right into him, and Mr. Diesel's packages fell all over the ground, and Wahoo McDaniel, I think, he just kept on walking because he felt this encounter was not his fault.
Well, you know the way I see it, is Wahoo McDaniel, ever since he got inducted into the Hall of Fame in WCW, he's got this attitude thing. He's better than everybody else. The way I look at him, Wahoo McDaniel, Rick Diesel's got your number, and he'll get you. And you can sure bet your money that it'll be a bloodbath, my friend.
You're crazy. Rick Diesel, Chief Wahoo McDaniel is not the kind of man that would knock somebody's packages all over the ground and not stop to help him pick them up if he felt that he was responsible for the encounter. But, I mean, I've met the man. I've talked to him on several occasions, had some nice conversations. I mean, you give him his chance. I mean, I bet Rick Diesel just ran right over him. That's what I feel happened.
Well, I'll tell you, let's go to this interview with Rick Diesel talking about this encounter with Wahoo McDaniels. Let's go to it. See, I told you, wrestling fans, Rick Diesel is PO'd beyond belief. Chief Walter McDaniels, you better watch your back, my friend.
I have no doubt in my mind that Wahoo McDaniel will accept this match, because Wahoo McDaniel, he was not inducted to the WCW Hall of Fame for no reason. I mean, he's not
got that yellow streak up his back.
He is not the kind of man to turn down a challenge, and I mean, I'm sure this will be settled in the ring.
Well, when it comes about, it comes about. Because I know the AIWF, and they don't care what kind of match they sanction, as long as the match gets done and people get their disputes settled and done with. So we're going to go to a commercial, and we're going to come back with our last match of the evening. And welcome back to AIWF Power Zone.
Power Zone.
I like the name of that. It's kind of cool. I think he named it after me. But now, ladies and gentlemen, for the last and final match of the night, there's got the Tennessee Violence Authority, myself, the sensational one, Sebastian King, and my partner, Dangerous Don Carson. I can do that. Are taking on Smiling Diamond Dave, an ex-member of the Tennessee Violence Authority, and Robert Roma. This match has got a little surprise at the end. I didn't much appreciate it. But, you know, what's done is done. But every bird has to come back to the nest sometime. And I'll get you.
I know what the surprise is, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to let you find it out for yourself. We're going to join the match right now. Am I correct in thinking
so.
that? Yes, we're going to join the match. So let's go to it.
You know, I just did not appreciate Jimmy Garvin doing that. Where did he come from? Why did he come?
And were you surprised?
Surprised is not the word. I just want to know, Diamond Dave, did you bring him in? Roma, was it you? Because I'm going to tell you, friends, whichever one of you it was, I don't care. You should have paid him more money to get the job done. But I just got a question for Dean Puckett. Puckett, is Garvin going to be in the AIWF for a while? Because nobody's seen him or anything. He just come in, done this, and left. You're sitting there with a smirk on your face. You tell us.
My thoughts on the matter are as follows. Jimmy Garvin came to the show, and I don't know why he was there, because nobody tells me anything in this organization. I mean, I'm just...
Well, it had to been some of your buddies that paid him off to come in there and attack me and Carson.
If they did, they hadn't told me about it. That's all I gotta say, because, I mean... But, I mean, I'm sure you were surprised. You look kind of surprised. I mean...
Would you be?
Well, yes, I would be.
One half of the Freebirds from Bad Street come running in and come clocking on my noggin.
Well,
I don't appreciate that.
Well, I mean, you should, if anything, you should feel important to think that somebody thinks you're either a big enough nuisance or a big enough problem to bring in somebody like Jimmy Garvin.
Why would they
half of the Freebirds?
Why would they have Garvin come in and hit me in the back? That ain't right.
Well, no, I should have hit you in the head.
I just proves he's scared.
You were turned the wrong way.
Yeah, right, Alice. Let me tell you something, Garvin. You come back in this AIWF again, buddy, you've had it. Because me and my partner, Carson, we're going to get you. And whoever brought you in, you're going out. And I don't care if it's in a stretcher, I don't care if it's in a body bag, I don't care if it's in the urn. But right now, I'm just a ticked off. We're going to go to a commercial, okay? We'll be back with the end. Go to a commercial, okay?
In the urn.
Welcome back to the last segment of today's show on the Power Zone.
You know, they say all good things must come to an end, and so must this show. I hate to say it, but it's time to go.
So,
well,
this is Martinsville, Virginia. So, Okay. Let's review what we went over tonight.
Exactly.
Today. We've had the Intimidator win over Major Havoc by disqualification, interference by Jumping Jimmy and Tex Wheeler. And then the next match, we had a reverse decision where Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig won the titles, but because of the other referees seeing that Pete Powers, Rick Diesel's new bodyguard, supposedly hit one of the Dixie Dynamite.
Not supposed to. Go ahead.
Then Skip Peterson comes out, tells Don Hopkins reverses the decision, takes the belts away from Rick Diesel and Brian Danzig, and gives them back to Dixie Dynamite. But that's okay. And then we've seen an interview with Rick Diesel talking about what happened between him and Wahoo McDaniels. Wahoo, your days are numbered. You better kiss the squad goodbye. And then the last match, you've seen the Tennessee Violence Authority versus Smiling Diamond Dave and Robert Roma, with Jimmy Garvin interfering in our match. Now, I don't care what people say, Freebirds are tough. But you're not as tough as the Tennessee Violence Authority. Anything you'd like to say?
Well, I'd just like to say that it's been a good show, and if you missed the show, call your local cable operator. Maybe they can get a tape of it, maybe. And I'd like to say it's been a pleasure hosting the show with you, Sebastian Kane, if I could have a handshake here.
But tonight in Pofftown, North Carolina, will be a title versus title match with Robert Roma, the U.S. champion, versus Black Knight, the heavyweight champion. I hope both men break each other in half, and so be that. And then, June 24th, Mount Airy, North Carolina, at the Old Jones School Gym.
You left out something. Tonight in Pofftown, Virginia, I'll be in a lightweight title match against Rick Diesel for the lightweight title. The title is on the line.
Sorry about that. You may get your title back one of these days.
Anyway, back at the show. What were you saying about June 24th or something?
June 24th at Mount Airy, North Carolina, at the Old Jones School Gym. The card's not completely set, but there are matches being signed. You won't want to miss them. For AIWF Power Zone, this is Sebastian Kane, Chris Windham. We'll see you next week.
Have a good one.